procedure in your Annex K for the approvals of the SAROS. And graphically represents the source of the legal issues that are now being raised today, specifically whether the unprogrammed appropriations are constitutional in themselves, whether there are certain guardrails according to the Constitution for unprogrammed appropriations, and whether it can be implemented the way that it has been implemented in the past. So before I continue, thank you for your compliance that you submitted last Friday. You submitted the complete SAROS, including a summary of the releases of the SAROS, and you also added a procedure in your Annex K for the approvals of the SAROS. And we thank you for being so transparent. I think this is an expectation of all government institutions. Just to clarify, all of these are public documents, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Yes, so as I speak and with the permission of the Chief, all your compliances, including the submissions of the amici, are now or have been uploaded even before we entered the session hall, so that the public may go to the public pleading section of the website of the Supreme Court and download so that they can follow or they can do their own analysis. Again, thank you to government for being so transparent. But unfortunately, some of us lacked time from Friday to today. My team has been working overtime together with me to do a full analysis, and we are going to ask very specific questions, sampling on the data that you have provided. But I am sure that my colleagues will go further than where I will go. First, let's look at the procedure for the release of the SARO. You submitted in Annex K of your compliance a document entitled The General Process Flow on the Release of Unprogrammed Funds from the Unprogrammed Appropriations, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. However, in paragraph 2.2 of your submission, there is mention of the general funding sources for 3 categories. This is from your presentation, so we are projecting your Annex K. There are 3 categories: budget support for GOCC or BSGC, loan proceeds of foreign assisted projects or FAPs, and others not in the prior 2 categories. So we are showing paragraph 2.2 of Annex K. I note the entry in your Annex K where you outline the procedure that if the request is subject to the availability of excess or new revenue, the availability of excess new revenue must be ensured, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
So reading your presentation in Annex K, does this require the certification from the Bureau of Treasury of the existence of excess or new revenue prior to the actual SARO?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you confirm that for every SARO, there must be prior to that a corresponding certification by the Bureau of Treasury, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And just to clarify, did you submit on behalf of your clients all the corresponding Bureau of Treasury certifications for the SAROS of 2024 and 2025?
It is my understanding, Your Honor, that they submitted, and also in our briefing, the certifications from the Bureau of Treasury, although not corresponding to specific dates, but they have a system of asking for certification on the available funds, and therefore they will know, they will have the information if they could already issue a SARO.
Because the understanding, my understanding was for every SARO, like for example, there is a SARO that released 69 billion from SAGIP, that there is a corresponding certificate coming from the Bureau of Treasury. Am I correct?
Not one-to-one, Your Honor, if I may explain. When we ask DBM, so it's like they periodically, they have a system of asking the Bureau of Treasury for available funds. And they monitor it, they track the available funds. And when the agency requests DBM for the SARO, then they would know what is the available balance of certified by the Bureau of Treasury.
So you agree with me that the issuance of the SARO in 2024 started as early as February and March, coming from unprogrammed funds?
My understanding in the briefing yesterday was, I think the first disbursement was in May, if that is my recollection, and if I may ask my team for confirmation, Your Honor. In 2024, okay.
Okay. So looking at the certifications for 2024, as you mentioned, it is not really prior to every SARO, but it is aggregated. And
Yes.
looking at it, so flashed on the screen, and this is in Annex J of your compliance for those that would want to examine it. By the way, I assume that the petitioners also got a copy of the compliances. Okay. Now for Annex J, so if you see the certifications here, it is mostly coming from PhilHealth, PDIC, Philippine Health, etc. And on the next page, again, there are dividend collections, etc., income from government deposits. But other than PhilHealth, the certifications coming from dividends started September, and the interest income started September, November, etc. Is this accurate? Because it's in your Annex J.
Yes,
I
yes.
suppose it is accurate.
Yes, Your Honor.
Then in September 17, 2024, there was 30 billion as a result of the upfront payment for the NAIA, Public-Private Partnership, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And there was canceled letter of credit also in September, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And then importation duties, etc. Correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Would you know the total of these certifications?
I don't have the figure, Your Honor. I may, if I may ask my team.
Yes, it will be relevant later, so kindly ask your team to start the computations, unless you have it now.
Wait, this tiny rainbow folding stool can hold 330 pounds? Super tough, super solid. Kahit pal.
Do you want to borrow our AI agent to compute?
Your Honor, thank you for the patience. In my document, it is 396
Yes.
billion 989 million 182,236.26.
So our expectation is that the total SARO coming from unprogrammed funds should match this Bureau of Treasury certification, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay, we will see that later. But I noticed in the 2024 submissions, most of the certifications were from PhilHealth and PDIC under paragraph D, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor. And so that's why also DBM was telling us when they were briefing about the 2025 and 2026 that those will not be found.
Okay. Now, for 2025, it is a bit different because your submission is shorter. In other words, I only see 1, 2, 3 certifications. One in November 3, the second November 18, and the last one November 18. Am I correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And this totals only 102,277,458,303 centavos, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
So these are the certifications for the releases of the SARO for 2025, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Can you tell us what was the earliest SARO in 2025?
May I confer with my team, Your Honor? The earliest in 2025 was July, Your Honor.
July 2025.
Yes.
Again, I'm confused. Because in your presentation in Annex K, the procedure is that DBM wants to ensure that there is a excess revenue or new revenue before they release from unappropriated funds, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And the certifications from the Bureau of Treasury only came in November, correct? But the SARO started to be released, July, correct?
May I confer, Your Honor,
Yes.
with the DBM representative?
Perhaps the certifications were not complete, or
Your Honor, if we may suggest to ask the DBM representative to explain the detail, if it pleases the court.
what do you mean in detail?
The DBM representative is explaining that there was a certificate issued and that there was a superseded certification.
Okay. Can you ask her to take the podium?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next to you.
Next week.
No,
I-
next to you.
Okay.
So you can advise her in case she violates her right against self-incrimination. Please go ahead. Can you introduce yourself and your position?
Your Honors, I am Attorney Andrea Celine Magtalas. I am Acting Assistant Secretary of the Department of Budget and Management.
Okay. Go ahead.
The BTR certification dated November 18, 2025 was actually superseded certifications issued dated May 14, 15, July 28, and November 3, 2025. So the first being May 14, Your Honor.
What do you mean superseded?
There was a subsequent certification issued after the first four were issued.
Yes. Can I confirm with you the total amount in terms of certifications for 2025?
It is 277,458,303.18.
Okay. The conditions for the superseding can be covered in the memoranda to be submitted by the Solicitor General, but we would really appreciate if you submit to us even the superseded certifications. But I do note that the total of the certifications for the new or excess is 102 billion, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
For 2025, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. And for 2025, it is only non-tax revenues, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Because in 2024, it was both tax and non-tax, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And in 2024, this was unique because ever since the beginning of time, but let me just say, from 2000, which is what we studied, it has always been non-tax revenues, correct?
Yes, Your
Only
Honor.
in 2024, there was an addition of tax revenues.
In the-
Excess tax,
In the
correct?
provision, Your Honor.
Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you. You may take your seat.
Thank
And
you.
welcome to the court. So again, let us look at the triggers in the 2024 and 2025 General Appropriations Act. It does say that there must be some assurance that there is excess revenues. Okay. So, Solgen, have this been followed?
Yes, Your Honor, by virtue of the process of asking the Bureau of Treasury for the certification.
Okay. In the process that you mentioned, as soon as there is excess revenue, this is now a basis for the DBM being requested to issue the SARO to actually issue the special allotment release orders, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Is there anything in the procedure which tells DBM that the excess revenue should be first spent for programmed appropriations rather than unprogrammed appropriations?
No, Your Honor, because for the programmed appropriations that are in the GAA, most of the appropriations, the general rule is that the allotment order is already the GAA itself.
No, I'm not talking about the allotment order, not the document allowing the release. I am looking at where the funds are coming from. So let us again go back to our points last meeting or the last day that we had our oral arguments. We said that even with the program funds, programmed appropriations, there will always be initially a deficit, correct?
May I clarify your
Okay.
question, Your Honor?
You said that the budget of expenditures and sources of financing, the BESF, which is in the NEP, already assumes a deficit, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. And you said that that covers the BESF and the NEP only covers program. In other words, there is a ceiling there of expenditures, and your position is it only covers program, correct?
The BESF covers the programmed and automatic appropriations, while the NEP covers the programmed and unprogrammed appropriations.
So in other words, the BESF already contains a provision for deficits, correct? 24, 25, 26.
Correct, Your Honor. When the funds are available, when to utilize, and there are also a lot of factors that are being considered when projects, activity, or programs are being asked for SARO, for such PAPs.
So in other words, as we were told during the PhilHealth hearings, cash is fungible, which means that even the earmarked funds are put in the same pot, and it is only through accounting that they will see whether it is actually spent. And we were indeed told that sin taxes, not all of them were really going to health, but used for other services. But that nonetheless, I just wanted to clarify this. Okay. Now, you mentioned in Annex K that the President does not participate for the release, correct? So I flashed the paragraph in your Annex K. Pursuant to the special provisions of the UA under the General Appropriations Act, prior approval by the President is not required for the release. This is from your compliance, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Do you refer to the GAA 24, 25, and 26, all of them?
May I confer with my team? My recollection is that yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
2024, 2025, 2026.
So it is your position that under the law, the GAA, the buck stops with the DBM, the President need not approve the SAROs, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
In other words, the DBM Secretary is no longer alter ego of the President. The DBM Secretary is co-equal with the President. Or is that a mistaken assumption?
what I could say is that the GAA has authorized the DBM or designated the DBM secretary to be the one to perform this responsibility.
She reports to the president?
Yes,
Yes,
Your Honor.
and the president, therefore, as the chief executive, and there is only one chief executive
Correct,
in
Your
the
Honor.
Constitution. The president can tell the DBM, don't do that, or the DBM secretary can consult with the president, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And the DBM secretary is accountable to the president, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Yes. Now, let us look at the 2024 provisions of the GAA on unprogrammed funds. And you will note here that in the special provision, it says, subject to Section 35, Chapter 5, Book 6 of Executive Order 292. You confirm that this is in the 2024 GAA.
Yes, Your Honor.
And looking at Section 35, Chapter 5, Book 6 of Executive Order 292, we find there that, that all requests for special allotment release orders must be accompanied by a special budget to be approved by the President, correct? Section 35, Chapter 5, Book 6, Executive Order 292, or our Administrative Code referred to in the 2024 GAA. It says to be approved by the President, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
So, are you now saying, or am I mistaken, that if the DBM has approved SAROS under 2024 without the explicit approval of the President, then we have violated a special provision in the GAA, correct?
May I confer with my team, Your Honor, so that I will not risk a misunderstanding
Yes.
in my answer. Your Honor, our DBM representative is clarifying that what is referred to in the GAA, in the 2024 GAA, is the presidential approval refers to the special budget request, which is a documentary requirement that happens before the issuance of a SARO.
Okay, so in other words, the President approves the special budget request, and then it goes to the DBM Secretary, and the DBM Secretary approves the SARO, correct?
Yes, Your
And
Honor.
the DBM Secretary, because she has the approval power, can actually not approve if she wants to, correct?
Correct, Your Honor. So,
In other words, the DBM Secretary can overrule the President of the Republic of the Philippines, correct? Kasi sabi nyo, mauna si Presidente sa special budget request, i-approve ni President. Pagbaba sa DBM Secretary, because you are saying that the GAA says that it is the DBM Secretary that approves the SARO, the DBM Secretary can say, sandali lang, wag muna.
for reasons, Your Honor, so for example, if there are submissions that haven't been received, if that is a correct
So it makes sense that the higher authority approves first the conditions before the lower authority approves the entire thing. In other words, the Chief Justice should first approve a travel authority before our Chief of OWAS will actually do the final approval. Okay, in other words, maybe you just covered this in your memoranda. Sufficient it is now to say that Section 35, Chapter 5, Book 6 is referred to as a condition for release in GAA 2024, correct?
Correct, Your Honor. It is not reflected anymore in the 2025 and 2026.
I was going to that. Now, when we go to the 2025 and 2026, the specific provision is no longer mentioned, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
So, does this mean that the GAA 25 and 26 repealed Section 35, Chapter 5, Book 6 of the Admin Code?
Not repealed, Your Honor, but if I may suggest to ask, because the DBM representative was trying to clarify on why it was changed in the 2025 and 2026.
Yeah, very clear that it was changed in 25 and 26, that the specific mention of Section 35 was removed. And Section 35 contained approval by the President specifically. Correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I confer?
What is the status of Section 35 before you confer with the administrative, your administrative support? What is the status of Section 35 as law? Does it still exist in 2025 or 2026?
Yes, it still exists, Your
Can
Honor.
a specific provision in the administrative code be repealed by the General Appropriations Act?
No, Your Honor.
Because that would be exactly called a rider, correct?
Yes, Your Honor, an
Yes.
inappropriate provision.
An inappropriate provision, otherwise known as a kind of rider, because it must only appropriate, not repeal existing law, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
So therefore, the clause now in 25 and 26, which says, and other relevant budgetary requirements in accordance with applicable laws, rules, and regulations, now also refer to Section 35, Chapter 5, Book 6, Administrative Code, correct?
I would say so. I would agree with that statement, Your Honor.
So it is possible, therefore, to legally and therefore constitutionally interpret that the President should approve the SAROS issued under unprogrammed funds, correct? Whether explicitly or implicitly, correct?
For the special budget request, Your Honor, but
Okay.
not the SARO.
Yes. Now, again, just to see the importance of this, based on your Annex B, and Annex B, for information of everyone, is your compliance regarding the digital copies of all the SAROS issued in 2024, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, there were 5 SAROS that was issued for the purpose of accomplishing the President's 8-point socio-economic agenda. There is such a thing, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, the 8-point socio-economic agenda is in the President's Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
So now we look at, okay, it is a priority because it is in the PDP, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Yes, and unprogrammed funds is merely a standby authority, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And if the 8-point plan in the Philippine Development Plan of 2023 to 2028 is a priority, why is it in the unprogrammed appropriations part of the GAA?
Your Honor, I would submit that that goes into the reasoning or the wisdom of the Congress in putting the appropriations in the programmed or unprogrammed.
So our President created the NEP. Our President has a Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028. Our President has committed to the public, I have 8 points. Sustainable livelihood, green livelihood, all of them, I can show it to you there. I enumerated because I wanted to memorize all of this because it is the plan of the President. That's why I wanted to memorize it, but I could not. And this is all there is. It committed it to the public. Ito yung gagawin ko during my entire term. Yet, instead of the Congress, in its wisdom, instead of putting it in the program, meaning regular, it put it as standby. Is that what you mean? We have to respect the wisdom of Congress, putting it on standby.
It is the position of the respondents, Your Honor, that we can actually debate on the soundness or unsoundness of putting certain items. And in fact, the public is already responding and reacting that that is unsound. But it is the humble submission of the respondents and the Solicitor General that this is a political question. Our Constitution defines the separation of powers and in fact has
Article 8, Section 1, second paragraph has a modification on separation of powers. Grave abuse of discretion, meaning irrationality, can be corrected by judicial review. But let us continue and let us just see what exactly were these SAROs. Page 141 of your submission is a SARO issued November 11, 2024, amounting to 12 billion released. Page 155 is another SARO for purposes of release for the President's priority, 69.9 billion, almost 70. Page 210, 3 billion. Page 215, 9.9 billion. And 228, 51 billion. Now, just to see, let's look at the highest release under for the President's priority. This is page 155 of your submission. Here is the SARO. And if you look at the SARO, the funding source is SAGIP under unprogrammed funds. You agree? Funding source, unprogrammed, SAGIP, correct?
the source of fund is the item in the
Yes.
appropriation,
Yes.
Your Honor. Yes.
No, not appropriation, unprogrammed appropriation.
Yes, Your
There
Honor.
is an item there called strengthening assistance for government infrastructure and social projects, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Now, reading it, it seems everything. Government infrastructure and social projects. That means everything, correct?
It means assistance for government and infrastructure social programs.
Yes, that's everything. What else is not infrastructure and social program? Education is social, everything else, correct? And that is a lump sum, correct?
It is a lump sum which
Yes.
has a specific purpose and specific amount.
That's being challenged by the petitioners, but in any case, it's a lump sum, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
In 2024, there were 47 lump sum items in unprogrammed funds, correct? 47 lump sum, 4 line items.
I do not have that detail now, Your Honor.
In 2025, there were 25 lump sums, no line items. You don't have that detail also.
I don't have, Your
In
Honor.
2026, it was reduced to 10 lump sums, correct?
I do not have that detail now, Your
Okay.
Honor.
In any case, let us go to that SARO. It says 69 billion, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And if we move further down into page 163, if I'm not mistaken, if we scroll down, it also contains releases for flood control projects, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Yes, and if we scroll down further, it covers also Region 3, like Hagonoy, Bulacan, correct? Release of 70 million pesos.
Okay, I am referring to the document that you are flashing, Your Honor, that your statement is correct.
Yes. So therefore, all the 5 SAROs, the total was 146 billion pesos from standby, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And these SAROs were released under the signature of the DBM Secretary, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, the source is SAGIP. Now, let's go to the other SARO for 51 billion, just to see the importance of authorities in the approvals. Page 228, Annex B, 51 billion, same. SAGIP, lump sum, source, purpose, 8-point priority agenda of the President. And if we move down to page 234, a start of the listing for flood control, correct?
Based on the document flashed on screen, Your Honor, correct.
Yes, and to page 239, releases for Region 3 and Oriental Mindoro. I just want to show you where all of these are found in terms of the authority for release, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
So in your submission, the President did not participate in these releases, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Yes, it was, the signature is DBM Secretary, only the DBM Secretary, correct?
For the SARO, Your Honor.
For the SARO, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Yes. So, is a GIP a proper lump sum item?
Uh,
Because I only flashed the infrastructure flood control. There is still road maintenance. There are different other social projects in one SARO. So, in other words, is this compliant with Bellica versus Ochoa 2013, penned by Justice Alfredo Benjamin Caguiwa, and in 2019, Saj Telly Bernabe? Okay.
It is our submission, Your Honor, that it passes the Belgica test on a single correspondence, which is a specific amount for a specific purpose.
Okay, now I move on to our next point, but probably your team can be taking note of some of the observations that we made and covering it. We are looking at grave abuse of discretion. Okay.